We light the candle to remind us of the light of reason, the source of meaning and wonder in the world. And just as we light the candle, let us remember how the light was ignited in one of us, in each one of us, as we were born curious and craving affection. We close the candle in the lantern to remind us that the light must be protected. Just as the flame can be fanned through the virtues of compassion and skepticism, so too can it be extinguished through fear and ignorance and neglect. Let each of us embody the light through the rigorous study and application of skeptical values. Let us spread the light through our shining example and through education and outreach. And let us protect the light by standing up for science and reason wherever darkness gathers. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. Let it be so.
Let it be so. Lovely, awesome, thank you guys. Okay, and good job for us, trying to be punctual here, sticking to a start time. Thanks to all of you who showed up on time. So it's been a long time since our last sanctuary. We do these monthly, but we had 5 weeks between the last sanctuary because it was a long month. But it's good to be back, good to see some returning faces, and good to see some new faces. Thank you guys for coming out, for trying it out. And welcome to everyone following on the live stream. We have more than one angle, I think, right? Where am I looking? Hello? Oh, hello. Okay, great. So yeah, we have a whole AV team. We've got production set up now. For anyone who has checked out our last live stream posted on YouTube, which I encourage you all to check out our YouTube channel, but you will notice a significant improvement in the production quality.
Not that much credit yet.
It is still a work in progress, but there's no question from what came before to what you guys did after. It's a huge mark. It's a huge upgrade in production value. So Adam, Sean, Ty, thank you guys for what you're doing. And it's an important part of our mission, what we're doing here, because we are kind of geographically limited by how many people we can reach here in the Metroplex, but through the live stream, we can reach anybody, anywhere. So it's an important part of what we're doing. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, I encourage you to do it. Subscribe, all that. It helps the channel, as they say. In other housekeeping news, I'm happy to report that we are now an official affiliate of the Center for Inquiry. That is one of the leading skeptical organizations in the nation. They invited us to apply to be an affiliate, and that has been an ongoing process. And as of now, we are officially listed on their website. So you can go onto the Center for Inquiry website. You can look at, find an affiliated group in your area, and you'll find Ministry of Skepticism. And it has a whole long list of all the affiliated organizations throughout the world. There's only one before us that had their logo up there, Beehive Skeptics in Utah. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh, can we add our logo? Because that matters. And they said, sure. So now our logo is up there as well. It's really cool to see. This month's beacon is morality. So each month we go through the beacons. Last month we talked about empathy. This month we're going to focus on morality. The beacons just kind of provide a framework from within which we can talk about different topics, focus on different things. This month we are focusing on morality. Zachary is going to give an incandescence, our version of a testimony based around this theme, and I'll give an illumination later in the service. our version of a sermon. The mission of Ministry of Skepticism is to provide an alternative to conventional faith-based religions. We provide a reasoned approach to spirituality and ethics, and we employ an evidence-based framework for the contemplation of meaning and purpose and significance. We are spreading the light of scientific skepticism through the promotion of reason, critical thinking, and scientific literacy. All things which are all too lacking today in public discourse. We're building a community for like-minded people, like you, who embrace a reality-based naturalistic worldview. So welcome. Ministry of Skepticism is for people who long for a sense of purpose and connection, but who are not satisfied with answers that require the suspension of our intellect or reason. We reject the idea that science and religion should be separated. We reject the notion that metaphysical questions should be cut off from scientific inquiry. Science, after all, is nothing more than the accumulation of the best tools and techniques we have for investigating and understanding reality. So why, we ask, would we cut off our most important questions about existence and purpose and meaning from the best tools we have for finding answers? Carl Sagan addressed this wonderfully when he said the notion that science and spirituality are somehow mutually exclusive does a disservice to both. To expand on this idea, I'd like to call up Israel to read a passage from the American theoretical physicist Sean Carroll. Carroll, like Sagan, is a popularizer of science and himself an eloquent science communicator. Sean Carroll specializes in quantum mechanics, cosmology, and the philosophy of science, and he is a vocal advocate for naturalism. Yes, thank you, Milo. The following passage is from Carroll's book, The Big Picture, on the origins of life, meaning, and the universe itself. Israel will call you up.
The universe is not a miracle. It simply is, unguided and unsustained, manifesting the patterns of nature with scrupulous regularity. Over billions of years, it has evolved naturally, from a state of low entropy toward increasing complexity, and it will eventually wind down to a featureless equilibrium. We are the miracle, we, human beings. Not in the break the laws of physics kind of miracle, a miracle in that it is wondrous and amazing how such complex, aware, creative, caring creatures could have arisen in perfect accordance with those laws. Our lives are finite, unpredictable, and immeasurably precious. Our emergence has brought meaning and mattering into this world.
Awesome, thank you. And it touches on so many of the themes that we talk about here. We mentioned Carl Sagan, and we refer to Sagan quite a bit here in our sanctuaries and in our teachings. Sagan, for anyone who doesn't know, he was a popularizer of science, planetary scientist, cosmologist. He hosted the Cosmos series on PBS. And this book, The Demon-Haunted World, actually provides the inspiration for kind of our messaging, our imagery. The lanterns, the candles are inspired by the subheading for The Demon-Haunted World, which is Science as a Candle in the Dark. We use that light imagery, the light as a motif throughout our branding and our messaging. It's why we have beacons of light. We have these books for sale. If you don't own this yet, we encourage you to read it, familiarize yourself with it. I said that we have them for sale, but you don't have to buy them from us. In fact, you don't have to buy them anywhere. The entire book is available for free online. You can get a PDF, you can read it online. You're also welcome to go online and find the book. You can find it for cheaper than we have it here. We are suggesting that you pay $20. But honestly, that is merely a suggestion. As with all the things that we have back there, we are selling our pins, our MOS pins, and we request $20, but our policy or our feeling is that we want you to have these things if you want them. We want you to support the Ministry of Skepticism, and we understand that we all are at different places in our lives. We get a lot of students, and so we fully expect that you can give according to your ability, take according to your need. If you want the book and you think that you'll read it, we'd be much happier if you took the book and read it and didn't pay anything if you can't afford it. If $5 is within your threshold, leave $5. And we do have, now that we are formally set up as a nonprofit, we do have a bank account now. So we have Venmo and Zelle set up. And if nothing else, go back and you can thumb through one of the books, take a look at it. We've also got a neat feature for these books that we are offering back there, but we have a custom stamp that we have embossed the books with, which is a nice touch. Jordan, you like that? Yes? Okay. So take a look back there when we take a break and you can see it there. I think that they look pretty cool. And by the way, any support helps, whether it is your support in spreading the light, talking to other people about what we're doing here, showing up to events like this. That is the most vital kind of support we can get. And of course, anything that you want to contribute also helps. Those donuts don't buy themselves. But boy, are they worth every cent. So this is not an atheist organization. I'd like to be clear about that. Belief in God is personal. Atheism can be a not too unsurprising result of skeptical inquiry, but it's not a requirement. That's your own business. As skeptics, we care about the process, not the position. That is to say, we are far more concerned with how you think than what you think. I personally am not aware of any good evidence for God, or any gods for that matter, but that does not mean that there are not good reasons to believe in God. And many people find those reasons for themselves. Martin Gardner was one of the founding members of the modern skeptical movement, and he maintained a belief in God to his dying day. His life was enriched by his personal relationship with God. That is for each of us to decide on our own. At MoS, we take the position of the French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace. He's getting a thumbs up from our French speaker. After reading Laplace's works on celestial mechanics, Napoleon questioned why God was never mentioned in the book, to which Laplace famously or infamously replied, "Sire, I have no need of that explanation." Or the quote is actually, "Sire, I have no need of that hypothesis." We have no need for the God hypothesis here. In the absence of any evidence for God, we don't presume one. And for anything that can be explained without a God, we will not interject one. Should new or better evidence come along, we will evaluate and revise our views accordingly, as good skeptics do. And we're okay with withholding our judgment in the meantime. That is the skeptical way. This is a safe space for the rational exploration of all claims. As long as you have an open mind and you're willing to engage with claims critically, thoughtfully, and dispassionately, then you're welcome in this space. To read a reflection on sanctuary and this space and what we're doing here, I'd like to invite up Luis. Oh, yeah, thank you. So you guys all have reflection books, and all of these are in those books. If you'd like to follow along, this one is on page 6 of your reflection books. Thank you for reminding me.
Thank you. Sanctuary. This is a space of sanctuary. All are welcome here. There are no ideas that are forbidden, no questions that are off limits. Beliefs are personal. Each of us is free to determine how we ascribe value and meaning. This is a space. In this space, claims are neither accepted or rejected by decree. We do not offer a fixed set of laws. There's no canon and there's no commandments. We offer patience and fellowship and the tools to guide you in your own pursuit of knowledge. Skepticism is a process, not a position. Believe what you will. What is private and personal is your own business. But for anything that can be measured and quantified, or for that you hope you have validated or affirmed, so long as you are willing to follow the evidence in good faith, whatever it may lead, then you're welcome in this space. You will find sanctuary here. Let it be so.
Great, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Luis. So one of the best things about these sanctuaries is inviting our members to share their personal stories. Whether about their personal relationship with science or skepticism or critical thinking, or their journey to or from or away from a faith-based worldview, or a journey toward an evidence-based worldview. It's an opportunity to share their personal testimony. And the Incandescence and the Illumination, they're both usually oriented around our beacons. And so today, Zach has prepared an incandescence around the topic of morality. Zach had been scheduled to give an incandescence around the holidays, but then, like so many people around that time, the flu or some sickness went through their household. And so at the last moment, he was unable to attend. And he had the whole thing written out. He'd shared the draft with me, and it was great. And it was a big loss that we didn't get to hear it. So we've been looking forward to bringing Zach back. And interestingly, Zach has now positioned himself as our beacon and incandescence czar. So he is the one basically coordinating the incandescence presentations every month. So this month when we talked about, I'm like, any ideas? Who are we bringing up? He called his own number. So we're happy now to get this make do. Is that what it's called? Redo. Thank you. Makeover, redo. All those things are makeover, redo. No. Anyway, we're happy to have Zach back. So Zach, we'd like to bring you up to share your incandescence.
Thank you. Do I have any donut on my face? No pink icing? Okay, great. I'm here to talk about my personal experience with today's beacon, morality. I'll try to add some humor and minimal singing. I'll leave the serious stuff to Arlo, and Arlo said to keep it under 15 minutes. If you were at last month's sanctuary, Arlo was correct when he said 5 minutes in that I was already thinking about booking the next month's speaker. I did not make myself the czar, but maybe that's where it's going. He knows me well. My short attention span was already off contemplating morality in my life instead of whatever he was talking about. Morality, principles, ethics are all very important to me. I'd like to think that I have strong moral convictions by which I try to live my life. Perhaps everyone thinks that, but from my observations, it seems there are people who live and act based on the principles they believe. There are others with strong moral convictions that don't always practice what they preach. I won't get into that, but I've also met people who don't seem to think about them at all. I've wondered why I became so passionate about things like right versus wrong, honesty, compassion, altruism, social responsibility. How did this get ingrained in me? Usually, our morality is instilled in us with our upbringing, which comes from our parents, our religion, and our community. I was raised by my parents. I was raised by Judaism, but mostly I was raised by 80s television. 80s sitcoms are what made me who I am today. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them all, and there you have the facts of life. Our normal audience is younger than usual this week, but yes, we all know that one. For us latchkey kids in the 70s and 80s, after school from 3 to 6, we watched reruns of our favorite sitcoms, and then after dinner, the primetime new sitcoms. Family sitcoms always came with morals, often right in the catchy theme song. Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some, because it takes... Okay, some people got it. Different strokes to rule the world, yes it does. Sitcoms are just stories, often with a lesson. The Bible is full of stories. Throughout the history of humankind, we have told stories to teach lessons. It is one of the main purposes of religion to give us our beliefs, our morality, how we treat each other, and how we live our lives. I don't recall many Bible stories or even what my bar mitzvah Torah section was about, but I watched all those sitcoms religiously. And whether it was consciously emulating my favorite characters or osmosis from sitting too close to the TV, I wanted to be a good person like my television idols. To be honest, to do the right thing, to be the hero for the imaginary studio audience in my head that's always watching. And I wanted to date Alyssa Milano from Who's the Boss. Yep, I even wrote her a fan letter yesterday. Is television fact or science? No, but there is a connection to what we've been talking about in skepticism. I wasn't a practicing skeptic, nor really heard of the Ministry of Skepticism until Arlo told me about it last year, and that he was starting a cult. Church. But when I came to the first sanctuary, I was amazed that here was a non-religion based on facts and science and preaching about the things that I cared strongly about. Compassion, empathy, morality, things I learned not from my religion, but from the glory of television. Here's a quote from the internet. Carl Sagan believed that morality should be rooted in science, reason, and our shared cosmic origin rather than religious dogma or absolute commandment. He advocated for a humanistic ethic centered on empathy, responsibility for our planet, and the recognition that human beings are precious, interconnected star stuff. Interesting point here about 80s sitcoms. The kids all learned in those shows from their omnipresent non-parental figure, who is the one that presents the morals that shapes them. What do all of these favorite 80s sitcoms have in common? Mrs. Garrett, Mr. Drummond, Charles in Charge, Celina's favorite, Mr. Belvedere, Mysticata, Tony Danza, or my favorite, Alf. Before them, there was Alice the Cook, Fonzie, before he jumped the shark, always the non-parent who lives among us. Are we more likely to listen to an alien puppet who eats cats than our parents? Or could they represent God that we follow for guidance? They're certainly always much cooler than our parents. Charles in charge of my days and my nights. Charles in charge of my wrongs and my rights. I want Charles in charge of me. I don't know why I had to read that. I know that by heart. But television shaped my formative years, and then we go out into the world and we have our beliefs evolve into our existence. In skepticism, we are trying to acknowledge reality, facts, and the true world around us. My moral being was solidified by reality and who I wanted to be as a person in my formative college years. Wanting to spend my life in the screen is why I went to NYU to be an actor and director, to tell my own stories and maybe someday work with Alyssa Milano. New York City could have been a terrifying, lonely, overwhelming place for a teenager from Texas. On the contrary, I found my place among the nicest, realest, most giving people. From Texas with wide open spaces and separation to a place where millions dwell on a small, crowded island, I now understood compassion, altruism, existence, respect for your fellow dreamer. I can also attribute that strong sense of community to my college roommate who was a deadhead. He took me to Grateful Dead shows where a shared love of good music, and yes, my wife, it is good music, that admiration inspired a culture and hippie lifestyle of generosity, of commonality on a whole new level than I'd ever witnessed. If you didn't have a ticket to the show, then someone would often gift you one of theirs. They call this a miracle. Once at a Dead show at Madison Square Garden, I lost my wallet. It was mailed to me, cash and all, by a fellow Deadhead in New Yorker the next week. I'm not advertising New York City or the Grateful Dead, nor condoning psychological drugs, Emmett. Just a culture of sense of community that I wanted to contribute to. The golden rule, which is not one of the 10 commandments, do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. I experienced this and it fit in with all that I grew up with watching on TV. I would say that this is the time in my life that changed me into a person that always had a devotion to my fellow humans, to consider compassion, grace, respect, though we may have different political opinions or backgrounds. Cut to, I moved to LA, as wannabe actors do, met my wife, we had 3 kids, and when it came to teach them values and beliefs, I wasn't really sure how to do this. My wife came from Christian Science, me from Judaism, but neither of us were practicing nor belonged to a place of worship. And I never did read no books on parenting, so I went with what I knew, 80s movies. Every Friday night was movie night. I showed them all my favorites and pointed out the morality lesson. See, kids, the Teen Wolf decided instead of using his werewolf powers to win the game and get the girl, it was better to involve his teammates and just use his human powers to win the game and get the cooler girl. It was great when they were young, but eventually they turned on me. Dad, we're sick of 80s movies. Well, uh-oh. Without Michael J. Fox, how would I teach them? We did our best, mixed in some of the basics of both our religions and parental wisdom and a healthy dash of political satire shows, and I feel they all become adults with great views, great sense of morality. Last year, when I forced the 2 teenage boys to wake up before noon to attend the first ministry, good thing for donuts, I was relieved that not only was there no human sacrifice nor anti-religious rhetoric, but I was ecstatic that these were the same ethics I cared about and want my kids to learn, and also goth music. Now we force our one kid at home, Emmett, to attend church for the same reason that I come, to contemplate, reaffirm our existence, show the light of reason, and be among our fellow seekers. It can be uplifting and good for the soul to ponder these things and listen to Radiohead. I leave you with some inspirational quotes. We read this from Sagan last Sanctuary. Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality. When we recognize our place in an immensity of light years, and in the passages of ages, when we grasp the intricacy, beauty, and subtlety of life, then the soaring feeling, that sense of elation and humility combined, is surely spiritual. So are our emotions in the presence of great art or music or literature or acts of exemplary, selfless courage such as those of Gandhi or Martin Luther King Jr. The notion that science and spirituality are somehow exclusive does a disservice to both. And from Mr. Drummond, Arnold, growing up means realizing the world doesn't revolve around you, but it also means realizing you have the power to change the world. And lastly, from Arthur Fonzarelli, being cool isn't how you dress, being cool is how you act. Yay! Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. That was well worth the wait. That was great. You definitely delivered. Thank you for that. And in every service, we talk about, we used to frame it as why religion? Why are we doing this? Because that's one of the first questions people ask when you talk about Ministry of Skepticism. Because there's lots of ways that we could come together and contemplate these ideas. We could have a meetup or some kind of a social group or a philosophy group. But we chose to frame it as a religion because that covers the kinds of things that we want to talk about. That more accurately captures the sphere and the scope of what we aim to do here, contemplating existential things like existence and meaning and purpose, but from a scientific, evidence-based perspective. But we don't have to talk as much about why we're doing this, or we don't have to explain it so much. And Zach has demonstrated exactly why. Because you guys are the answer. The fact that we are here, that you are here, that you find meaning in this, that it is useful. Zach talked about growing up with 80s television. And one of the things that we all encounter as people who leave a structured, organized religion, whatever your morals or your values, once it comes to raising kids, it's hard to go it alone without a kind of structure to support you, without a community to support you. And like Zach said, it's kind of hard for messages to stick when you're doing it on your own. Sometimes as parents, our voices kind of get tired. Our kids aren't always hearing what we're saying. Wyatt, are you listening? Listen to your parents. And when you're done listening to them, listen to us. That's why we're here. But that is the point. That's why churches and pastors and those types of things exist, to be the Arthur Fonzarellis, the Mr. Drummonds, to support the work and the messages and the values of the parents. It becomes kind of this synergistic feedback loop where all things are supporting each other, hopefully to build children and people with upstanding character that embody the values that are important to you. And so that's why we are doing this, to create that kind of a framework for people like Zach, for people like us that are looking for that kind of support to instill in our children and in our communities the values that are meaningful to us. Zach and I went to an arts high school, Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. I was a visual artist for my first 2 years there, and I moved into theater for my second 2 years. And I had experiences in both of those disciplines that I think are kind of instructive here. As a visual artist, I draw and I paint. I like to use my hands. But I am also a graphic designer by trade. I work with my father. We have a creative agency here in Dallas. And so I spend a lot of time also producing creative work on the computer. And I've also used those skills to do my own personal creative work. I've done a lot of graphics on the computer. And there is a clear difference between creating on the computer and creating works by hand. And it's not to say that one is better than the other, but there are features about those differences that I think are interesting and pertinent to what we're discussing here. When I draw by hand, I make mistakes. Unexpected things happen. You don't have perfect precision or control over the pen or the paintbrush. Sometimes the lines just end up wherever or however they end up. On the computer, you have perfect precision. And even if you make a mistake, all you have to do is adjust it pixel by pixel, and it can be exactly how you want it. There's no room for kind of improvisation or mistake or the feedback that happens when you're constantly readjusting to whatever happens on the page. I've always known that there was something kind of exciting and interesting about that interplay between the unexpected and your own creative process. A lot of times, by the time you get to the end, after having gone through all those twists and turns, you end up with something kind of surprising and even better than you could have imagined it. And a similar thing happens in theater. When you write a script, for instance, and then you turn it over to the actors and the directors and the set designers, it's never going to end up exactly how you picture it in your own mind. But you can be certain that the end product will be better than what you could have imagined. After the actors interpret your words through their own minds, and the director does the same thing, and the set designers. It's through that collaboration of brains interacting. That's where the real magic happens. And so we are experiencing a similar thing here. We write reflections. We set up these rituals. There's a lot that we try to craft and build to make this thing happen. But it's not until it gets out into the world, into your minds, and we start to get that feedback that it becomes a real thing. The magic is here in this room. It's Zach sharing his story, talking about how these ideas resonate with him, and every incandescence we've had, and the way each of you are thoughtful about the things that we talk about, and put these ideas into practice into your own lives. And then this enterprise becomes a reflection not just of our own brains as the people trying to build this fledgling organization, but it becomes a reflection of all of our input. And that is when this is at its most satisfying and most rewarding. So please keep engaging with these ideas, keep giving your feedback, and I promise you that we keep adjusting to your feedback. Every month we try to improve and get better, and we can't do that without your input. We definitely take it to heart, and for people that have been to multiple sanctuaries, you will have noticed the evolution as we go. Just like in science, this is a living, breathing thing that is constantly open to review and revision. So this work will never be complete. It is always a process. We started a Ministry of Skepticism Facebook page so that we can share our events, and so my mom can know we exist. But this week, Jessica Kohler, who gave last month's Incandescence and who's not here, and if she's watching on the live stream, hi Jessica, we miss you, and we're thinking about you. Jessica was scheduled to speak here also, and then I got a message from her this morning. What Jessica spoke about last week was we were doing empathy, and she talked about her personal experience with, hi Julie, with her son who is neurodivergent. He's a teenager now, but it is emotionally challenging for anyone that's been a parent, for you guys with Emmett, and anyone who's had a teenager. We know that already can be challenging, but even more so when you have a child with special needs. And so Jessica let me know this morning. She said they've been having a rough time. Their son hasn't been sleeping through the night for a while, and that means the parents aren't sleeping through the night. So she just was not feeling up to it this morning. We totally understand, and so we are wishing the best for them. But Jessica was on my mind, and so I want to acknowledge her, not just what she's going through, but this week, Jessica posted something on her Facebook page, which I'm going to read to you. It's short, but she said, this is Jessica on her Facebook page. She said, Several months ago, I began attending a group called the Ministry of Skepticism. This endeavor was the brainchild of Arlo Eisenberg, whom I know from Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. This was back in the early 90s. It's a non-religious spiritual community that meets once a month. Believe in gods or God or don't. The people are warm and kind, open to connection, and listening with open hearts. We meet in only the best public libraries all across the Metroplex, so one may be held close to you soon. Oh, and they live stream on Instagram. DM me with questions, and this Saturday, Zach Eisenberg will be at the front sharing what I'm certain will be an illuminating story about morality, and she was right. But what a wonderful thing to share that message within her network. So once again, I encourage all of you to spread the light. There is no greater testimony to what we're doing here than your word, your personal validation of this experience. That is how we grow. And we are a ministry. Our mission, our objective is to grow. This is not a precious or private thing. We are spreading the light of skepticism and critical thinking, which are essential tools for anyone trying to navigate this information age that we live in. So a huge thank you to you, Jessica. And thanks to all of you for spreading the light. So we have one more short prayer before we get to our break. We'll have a 10-minute break. I am grateful for Jessica, grateful for all of you. We have a lot to be grateful for. One of the things that we get to do when we come together as a community is share these experiences. We take time. We are creating the time to be reflective, to think about the things that we are grateful for, and we certainly have many things to be grateful for. So to help guide us through this moment of reflection, I would like to bring up Cassandra to share our reflection on gratitude. And this is on page 10 of your reflection books.
Before I begin, I think it's really important to note that there is a scientific connection between gratitude and morality, like being pro-social, and then as well as making you a happier person as well. So, gratitude. We have so much to be grateful for. The very fact that we are here, that any of us should exist, despite the extraordinary odds against it, it is truly a miracle. And the fact that we are here, in this space together, sharing this experience of communion and fellowship is a gift worth cherishing. So let's take a moment and be thoughtful and reflect upon this blessing. Enjoy the fellowship of friends and family and neighbors as we come together to celebrate the light of reason, the virtues of skepticism, and the miracles of existence. Let it be so.
How lucky are we to have teachers in our community that are so great at presenting and also sharing their wisdom. Thank you, Cassandra. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. We've still got some coffee and donuts back there. I feel like the donuts have hardly been touched, so help yourself. Make sure that we eat those up. In the spirit of gratitude, we have some new faces here. So guys, introduce yourselves. If you see people that you haven't seen before, if you see people maybe that you haven't seen in a while, reacquaint yourselves, say hello. Let's take a moment to experience and revel in this spirit of gratitude. And Jordan, don't forget to take a look at the cool stamps and the Carl Sagan books in the back. And guys, we will be back in 10 minutes. So we took a moment to think about the things that we have to be grateful for. We shared a reflection on gratitude. And hopefully you guys all got to share a sense of community and fellowship. Every sanctuary is an opportunity to come together and enjoy the fellowship of friends and family and neighbors. And that truly is a blessing, and we are right to celebrate it and cherish those moments. But we should also be mindful to balance that with a sense of compassion and an awareness that we all aren't always so lucky, or we don't always experience gratitude or good fortune in equal amounts. Death is a reality of existence, and we acknowledge that openly. It seems like every month we have something else to think about. Part of our family, Alia's sister, Morning, lost her mother-in-law recently. So our thoughts are with her and her family and everyone else who's affected by that loss. We don't fear death. This is something that we'll talk more about here shortly. But for now, I would like to take a moment to reflect upon compassion, much the same way that we took a moment to think about our gratitude. Let's also think about our compassion and to share the reflection on compassion, which you can find on page 11 of your reflection books, is Celina.
Even as we recount the things that we have to be grateful for, and there are many, let us also observe how much of our fate is determined by circumstances outside of our control. There is not one among us who deserves credit for choosing their genes, or their parents, or where or when they were born. And neither is there one among us who deserves blame for their burdens, or their afflictions, or their shortcomings. It is a fact of nature that our fate is neither a reward nor a punishment. No one deserves praise or blame for their being. Let us view the world honestly and see each other truly and recognize that all are deserving of compassion and grace.
Yeah, thank you, Milo.
Do you do thumbs up too?
Finally, something resonated with Milo. Good choice. So I'm going to give you guys a peek behind the curtain here. We've talked a little bit about the business of building this thing. So it's not just the sanctuaries, the rituals, the reflections. Yay! Yay! It's the branding and the icons, the iconography. And when I designed the logo, which I'll freely and proudly admit that I designed, the lantern, where is it? Do you see here behind me? If you didn't notice, it is a lantern. There in the middle is a candle. Candle, once again, taken from the inspiration of a candle as a science as a candle in the dark. And then we placed it in a lantern because as a Ministry of Skepticism, our charge is to protect the light. The lantern protects the candle. And to spread the light. Much like you've seen in our rituals, we can carry the lantern out into the world and spread the light of science and skepticism. So when I designed the logo, I knew that I wanted to feature a candle. That seemed pretty obvious. And even the lantern came together pretty quickly. But I wanted a shape to enclose the lantern, and I knew that I wanted it to be something distinctive, not just a circle or a square. I wanted a recognizable silhouette. something that would stand out even if you never saw the lantern. The shape itself could be associated with the Ministry of Skepticism. And pretty early on in that process, I sort of landed upon kind of a coffin shape. I thought, that's cool. And as Zach and Jordan and a lot of people have noticed, there's kind of like a goth aesthetic here. And so I'm like, the coffin like fits right in. I liked it. I stylized the coffin shape to have 5 walls, 5 sides, to correspond with our 5 beacons. So in that way, I wanted it to be a little bit meaningful. But I never really had a great story for why it was a coffin, other than I thought it looked kind of cool. And I'm telling you guys this now, but after this, we will forget this ever happened, and there will always have been some kind of intent and purpose behind this, as far as anyone else will ever know. So it wasn't like the candle, which had the association to the science as a candle in the dark. There was no meaning until now. In his book, Unweaving the Rainbow, Science, Delusion, and the Appetite for Wonder, which was published in the year 2000, the evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins began a passage with the following line: "We are going to die, and that makes us the lucky ones." And then he went on to say that most people are never going to die because they're never going to be born. And if you follow our socials, which I encourage you to do, follow Ministry of Skepticism, then you might recognize that. We are going to die, and that makes us the lucky ones. We've posted it. It's powerful. It turns on its head the traditional religious framework that treats death as a punishment or something to be feared, or at its best, a shot at eternal salvation, which you have to earn. But instead, for us, from a naturalistic perspective, it highlights the miracle of existence. As we say in some of our reflections, against extraordinary odds, we are here, we exist. And we rightfully acknowledge death as an affirmation of that miracle. We are the lucky ones. Death can only ever be experienced by those lucky enough to know the miracle of existence. And now, thanks to Richard Dawkins, we have this powerful insight to give meaning to our coffin. So if anyone asks what it means, we can reply that we are the lucky ones. And so, taking inspiration from Dawkins and this idea, which for me was exciting once this all started to come together, as humans, we're pattern-seeking animals, and so when something like this, all the pieces seem to fall in place, it can feel magical, almost destined. But we know better. So we have a new reflection that's not in your reflection books yet, but we have handed out a flyer, a little printed piece, which you can follow along with. This is our first time reading this. It's called The Lucky Ones, inspired by Richard Dawkins. We are going to die. That makes us the lucky ones. Against extraordinary odds, atoms on Earth, organized into a unique arrangement of organic molecules to form you. Stars outnumber humans in the universe by a factor of hundreds of trillions to 1. And yet, none of your atoms reside in the stars. Most of the ordinary matter in the universe exists in the gas clouds floating between galaxies. And yet, none of your atoms are tied up in that vast cosmic web. Of the near infinite arrangements you could have been, or might never have been, your atoms bonded in just such a way as to grant you awareness, empathy, language, and memory. Stars illuminate vast eons of space and time, but they will never know the light of self-awareness. Lucky are we whose light flickers on, even if only for a moment, to ignite an experience as rich as it is rare. Let it be so. So how exciting now that we have this thing, a foundational feature of our worldview, that death is a part of existence. They are inseparable, and it is an affirmation of the miracle of our existence. So we talk a lot about skepticism. This is, after all, the Ministry of Skepticism. We've talked a little bit about why we are here, why it's modeled as a religion. But we haven't spent much time talking about what skepticism actually is. Because it is something. There is a modern skeptical movement, scientific skepticism, in the style of skepticism advocated for people like Carl Sagan and Sean Carroll and Richard Dawkins. So to talk to us a little bit about what skepticism is, because it's an important, actually a critical feature of what we are doing here. It's not just to provide community, although we do that. It's not just an alternative to other organized religions. We are actually offering something here that is of urgent importance, and that is the ability to think critically, to navigate claims meaningfully. So to talk to us about skepticism, I'd like to bring up my daughter, LuLu Eisenberg. And I also am going to give her a kiss. Thank you. Oh.
It's bright up here. Gosh, how are you seeing? Okay. How do we decide what's true? How do we avoid fooling ourselves? How do we navigate a world full of claims? One of the best tools we have for doing this is skepticism. And so what exactly is it? It's a process, not a position, as we say often. And specifically, it's a process rooted in the scientific method to assess the validity of claims. It's an approach to evaluating claims that emphasizes empirical evidence, logical reasoning, methodological rigor, and openness to revision. At its core, scientific skepticism asks 4 questions. What is the quality of the evidence? Are alternative explanations ruled out? Are cognitive biases, incentives, or errors influencing conclusions? And can the claim be independently replicated or falsified? If I had to summarize skepticism as concisely as possible, I would describe it as withholding judgment or belief until sufficient evidence is presented. It's valuable to identify what skepticism is not, because the word is definitely misrepresented and misunderstood. Skepticism is not denial of everything. Skeptics follow where the evidence takes us, so we believe in what is supported by evidence. Skeptics are not flat earthers, climate change deniers, evolution deniers, vaccine deniers. All of those positions reject overwhelming evidence. Skeptics do the exact opposite. Here, these topics are extremely supported by evidence and well documented. In those cases, people are starting out with a conclusion and looking for anything that confirms it. Skeptics do not start with a conclusion. Again, we see where the evidence takes us and form our beliefs based on that evidence. And I want to emphasize as well that where the evidence takes us is ever changing, as new evidence is provided. If credible, verifiable evidence that challenges our current understandings of the world comes about, we update our beliefs accordingly. Okay. I want to briefly discuss a real-world application of skepticism using a quite disturbing topic. So bear with me, the Jeffrey Epstein case. You don't have to react like that. Gosh, usually I'm the one shutting down your ideas. Okay, so The documented evidence shows that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in the sexual exploitation of underage girls, and many victims have come forward, and these crimes are real, serious, and well supported by evidence. However, something that I've observed online and in conversations with people is that the existence of this real wrongdoing has led some to conclude that a wide range of other conspiracy theories must also be true. For example, some claims it confirms ideas like Pizzagate or secret global cabals controlling the world, and of course often claimed to be Jews and or lizard people and or Satanists, or some other extraordinary claims like cannibalism, and specifically towards babies. So I apologize. Now, it's always possible that additional wrongdoing could exist. Skepticism does not rule out things in advance, but skepticism does require that claims be supported by evidence before we accept them. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. In fact, I think adding unsupported theories can actually distract from the very real harm that we do have evidence for. The documented abuse of young women and girls in this case is already horrific and deserving of serious attention and accountability. Skepticism helps us stay focused on what we can actually demonstrate with evidence rather than building elaborate explanations that go far beyond what the evidence shows. In that way, skepticism helps us confront reality clearly, which is ultimately the best way to understand problems and help the people affected by them. Ultimately, skepticism is not about doubting everything. It's about caring deeply enough about truth that we are willing to question ourselves, examine evidence, and change our minds when necessary. It asks us to be comfortable with uncertainty, humble about the limits of our knowledge, and committed to learning together. In a world full of claims, misinformation, and confident voices, skepticism helps us slow down, ask better questions, and move a little closer to understanding reality as it actually is. Thanks.
I will add, because I think, did we give out skeptic toolkits? Yeah. Yeah? You have the white books also? Oh, if you're new. Okay. Just so you know, you can review those in your own time, but just so you know, those actually are taken. We've talked a lot about this book, Science as a Candle in the Dark, Carl Sagan's book, The Demon Haunted World, but that skeptic toolkit is taken directly from a chapter in this book called The Fine Art of Baloney Detection. But so it provides a brief but effective introduction kind of to the concepts of skepticism, introduces you to some cognitive biases, logical fallacies, and that is the core ingredient, the secret sauce here, what we're doing. It all derives from kind of those tools and techniques of skepticism. All right, so I'm going to give my illumination, which for anyone who was here last time, LuLu got cut off. We lost track of time, and so it was cut short, abruptly, unceremoniously, in the middle of LuLu's What is Skepticism presentation. So she didn't get to finish her presentation. I never got around to my illumination. And this is not it. That one now is, because we're going through the beacon, so that one's going to have to wait until we get all the way through the cycle and get back to empathy again. So I've got one in the can. That'll be the first Friday night before Sanctuary, where I can actually probably go to dinner the night before. So if anyone wants to go to dinner, May 19th, whenever it's going to be, yeah, look me up. Oh yeah, you're right. No, it's a long time from now. Okay. Yeah. So this is a new illumination, and I like for these things to be topical, right? Usually we try to tie it into something that's happened recently, whether personally or in the public sphere. And in Zach's wonderful Incandescence, he asks us to contemplate the source of morality. Where does it come from? How do we learn it? If not solely from our parents, then where? And kind of the answer is it is supported by a myriad of things, whether that is a church, whether it is TV sitcoms or 80s movies. It kind of takes a village, so to speak. You need multiple sources kind of reinforcing the same ideas. When Zach said discovering the Grateful Dead really kind of ignited his moral enthusiasm, I would argue that it happened long before that. It may have ignited it in a way, but it begins with your parents. It begins, if you're going to church, it begins in the churches. And that is setting a foundation for your character and your moral judgment. And then the things that you encounter in your life, much like our genes interact with their environment to be turned on or not, kind of your latent moral sense can also be ignited by your environment or influenced by your environment, either for the better or the worse. That's why your influences are important. Choose them wisely. And it's why we've created this, to be a positive influence and to help steer and guide that moral development. So that when your parents tell you, don't total the car and then the next day get a speeding ticket in a school zone, right? They're not the only voice. You can hear that other places. So children, I'm telling you guys, don't total your car and then the next day go and get a speeding ticket in a school zone in your parents' car. That's how we build moral character. We reinforce ideas that are taught in the home. We do it here in the church. So I was confronted with my own kind of thorny moral dilemma recently. LuLu and I both. She came to me with a serious problem. And in contrast to Zach's presentation, this actually was really serious. I know I'm setting it up almost like it's a joke, but it's not. It was a serious issue with a tricky moral dilemma. And as parents, when our children come to us in times of need, they're looking to us for comfort and for moral guidance. But where do we look for support or guidance? And again, that's why structures and a framework like this are so helpful and so useful. In a previous sanctuary, in fact, probably the last time we were at morality, we discussed two different types of morality understood in the literature. Heteronymous morality, which is the kind of morality that you see in children. It's kind of the first cognitive understanding of morality that we have as we're developing in our developing minds. And it is fixed and unchanging. And it derives from rules and authority figures. Things are right or wrong because our parents tell us so. And then the other kind, which develops later in life, as our brains develop, is autonomous morality. And that is when we reason our way to moral decisions. Rules in this conception of morality are social agreements arrived at through deliberation, taking into account things like dignity and suffering. So heteronymous morality, the fixed and unchanging kind, is the kind like you might find in many religions. Rules come down from an authority. They're not meant to be questioned. Laws are fixed and unchanging, and strict obedience is expected. This is what is often described as absolute morality. Certainly by many faith-based religions. And the idea is that there is an absolute source, typically a divine creator or supreme being. And for some reason, this is extolled as a virtue, which I find odd. It creates a relationship dynamic that's akin to that of a parent to a young child. It's the same kind of moral structure. Now, compare that to autonomous morality, which has autonomy right in the name, and which is the basis for many of our secular systems of government. Under this framework, ideals like life and liberty are prioritized, and rules are arrived at through reasoning, and they are mutually agreed upon. So without any absolute authority or any sacred text, we are left on our own to reason our way through thorny situations. Again, it's why you need a framework, some kind of a community based on these autonomous values to help support you in this endeavor. So LuLu has been going out a lot, enjoying the Dallas nightlife. My bedroom is right above the garage, so many mornings, 5, 6 a.m., I can hear the garage coming up. I know LuLu's coming home from a long night. She's been making a real effort to go out and experience the nightlife and clubs and music and culture, and it's exciting. When we went to Europe, she did the same thing. She found clubs near our hotel, and she was a stranger in a strange land, thousands of miles from home, but she went out every night, found something to do, found community there on the spot. And this is one of just many things that I love about my daughter. She puts effort into the things that she cares about, and she makes time for the things that she cares about. She studies hard. She works hard. She makes time for friends and family. And when she goes out, she dances. She listens to great music. She enjoys stimulating conversations. She parties hard. So one night recently, LuLu went out with one of her best girlfriends, and they were joined by another couple that she'd met on a previous outing. The other couple was a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and she liked them enough when she met them the first time. Actually, she liked the girlfriend quite a lot. They had a great conversation. And that foursome, LuLu and her best friend and the new couple, they bounced around bars, clubs around Oak Lawn in the Design District. They had drinks. And as the night was winding down, while they were waiting for their ride share, a conflict broke out between LuLu's best friend and the boyfriend from the other couple. And things escalated quickly. And before anyone knew what was happening, the boyfriend threw LuLu's best friend to the ground, smashing her head and shoulder. And then he proceeded to stand over her. And I know that this is difficult for LuLu. I'm sorry, baby, to be sharing this. But I think that there are important lessons to be derived from this. The boyfriend was standing over LuLu's best friend, and he was continuing to assault her. And LuLu screamed for him to stop, and she was trying to pull him off of her. This was terrifying and a shocking turn of events. You never expect something like this to happen, especially not when you're out with friends trying to enjoy the experience and the excitement of going out. So, needless to say, everyone was shaken up by this incident. LuLu's friend had to go to the emergency room. She filed a police report and was treated for multiple injuries, including a concussion. And when I learned about this, when LuLu told me about it, I mean, clearly she was traumatized. Everyone was. And the whole thing was so shocking and unexpected. So LuLu didn't know how to process it. But she felt like she had to do something in the name of justice, to defend her friend, to warn other people, to call out the perpetrator. But she was nervous about this, nervous about drawing attention to herself. She didn't want to be seen as a troublemaker or an attention seeker. She didn't want to make herself a target. She'd seen what this guy was capable of, what he would do to a woman. So naturally, she was gripped with fear and anxiety. And as a parent, also this was a tough predicament, because I also now was in a position of not knowing what to do. How do you give the right moral guidance here? I wasn't sure how to guide her. I didn't know how to assure her that everything would be okay. And I understood all of her motivations for wanting to do something, and I understood her hesitations. I share with LuLu a general distaste for people who air their grievances on social media. And no matter how just the cause, this is probably some kind of a bias, but I find something off-putting about people who resort to those kinds of antics. And I'm sure it has something to do with my skepticism, perhaps. I tend to be leery of any story that comes from a single, extremely biased source, especially when they're 100% in control of the narrative. That kind of justice for me, or justice seeking, seems a lot closer to angry mob justice than the rule of law. And so that makes me uncomfortable. And I told LuLu as much, and I think she's in a similar place. It's part of her hesitation. But at the same time, I also recognize the transformative power of social media. Never before have we had such an effective equalizer. No longer are perpetrators able to commit their crimes without impunity. It's possible now to hold them to account. Everyone has that power. So, all that is to say, unfortunately, I wasn't much help. It really was hard to know the right thing to do. And this is what LuLu was struggling with. So she was leaning toward posting something. It felt too important to keep silent. And she prioritized what she saw as an urgent and just cause over her own discomfort. So she decided to put her neck out there on the line. And I agreed that it was probably the right thing to do. And I'm sure even in that moment, neither of us knew if that was true or not. So immediately after the post, LuLu felt a huge weight lifted off of her. Her best friend was eminently grateful for what LuLu did. And LuLu received a lot of supportive comments. But then the perpetrator made his own post. She's not the only one with a social media account, and this ability to represent your own position is not limited to just the victim. He's able to say his piece. He's in control of his narrative. And so he responded to LuLu's accusations, and he said that he was attacked by LuLu and her best friend. He said they were drunk and out of control. His girlfriend was there. She could corroborate his story, he said. And he had it all on video, he alleged. The truth would come out. So LuLu's mood swung severely. Now she was under attack, just like she'd feared might happen. Now it was her character that was being questioned. I wish I'd never made that post, she told me. Which is kind of heartbreaking to hear as a parent, because I was crushed too. Maybe I'd failed her as a father. Maybe I didn't give the right advice. I failed to protect my daughter. And so what I told LuLu next was as much for myself as for her. But in situations like this, there is no right or wrong answer. All we can do is evaluate to the best of our ability and trust our moral compass to guide us and try to make the best decisions we can. We won't always make the right decisions. But as long as we are mindful of our biases and we're motivated by a sincere desire to do the right thing, then we can at least be sure that we are moving in the right direction. And so our skepticism provides some guardrails to help keep us on course as we try to navigate these thorny moral waters. I guess to get that metaphor right, as we navigate these rough moral waters. But so we must be compassionate, not just for the victims, but also for the perpetrator. Because clearly there are forces at work on his mind, from his environment to his genetics, that have landed him in this position. We should also want the best for him, even as we seek justice. And we must be honest. Make sure that we are giving a fair account of the circumstances. And importantly, we must be willing to revise our position based on new evidence. Was he attacked? What does his video show? And we must remain dispassionate, especially when there is pain involved and people that we care about. We must work to keep our emotions in check. Seeking justice is not the same thing as seeking vengeance. So even if we don't get things exactly right initially, and you can be sure a lot of the time we won't, we can take comfort in knowing that our skeptical values give us the ability to keep reevaluating and course correcting. And as long as we are motivated by honesty and justice and fairness and remain open to review and revision, we will keep moving closer towards some version of the truth. So after the perpetrator made his post, LuLu started receiving a new round of messages and DMs, but this time from acquaintances of the perpetrator, people that knew him personally, whether professionally, they worked with him, socially, even from other women that had experiences with him. And they were all saying the same thing, that they've seen this pattern of behavior in him before and that this was not surprising or out of character for him. If the perpetrator had a video of the incident, as he alleged, he never shared it. And his girlfriend never did come out publicly in his defense. This all raised LuLu's spirits a little bit. She didn't feel so bad for the post after all. She had defended her friend and alerted the world, her network certainly, to a real threat. She felt vindicated. As parents, and this is not just about parents, as friends, family members, partners, we will all be faced with situations like these, where we're called upon to offer guidance and support, but where the right path is not always clear. Rest assured that we won't always give the right advice. And that's not always the most important thing. When we appeal to our skeptical values, we can at least be motivated by the right intentions. When your heart and your mind are in the right place, even if you don't start out on the right path initially, at least you'll be in the right ballpark. And from there, you can let your skepticism light the way. All right, LuLu, thank you for letting me share that. Thank all of you for going on that difficult journey with us. I know it's a heavy topic, but really, this is why we're here, right? Is to help offer moral guidance to us as parents and as community members, so that we don't have to do these things, tackle these things alone. We can lean on each other for direction and guidance. We can lean on our beacons and our values and our principles for guidance. We can reason our way to a moral understanding. Okay, so I'm going to share some brief closing remarks, and then we have one final ceremony. It is our closing ritual. We began the service by lighting the lanterns. We will close the service appropriately with the extinguishing of the candles and the lanterns. Before we do that, thank you guys for coming, and for those of you that are new, for having the courage to indulge your curiosity and not to pass judgment sight unseen, but to give it a chance. We look forward to your feedback, so please share your thoughts and your feelings, whatever they are. We welcome all feedback, and it helps us to grow and to make this something that is valuable and useful for all of us. Our next sanctuary is in May, May 16th, which is another Saturday. We are moving to the Lockwood Branch Library, which is also in Dallas. The best way to stay up to date on our events is by following our socials, or you can always visit our website, ministryofskepticism.org. We always post the upcoming events there. We will be going to Tom and Tom's Coffee and Eatery, which is close to here. About how far do we think? Just a few minutes? 10 minutes from here? So hopefully you guys will have some time to join us there. You can ask Celina, ask me, you can put it into your phones. Tom and Tom's Coffee and Eatery on Royal Lane. So we'll be going over there, and maybe Zach will be running right out after Sanctuary to lock down a table for us. He's been pretty good about that. He's not only the czar of the beacons, he's also the czar of tables. We have, our next event is not a sanctuary, rather, it's a constellation. In between our sanctuaries, we have constellations. This is a religious service, styled like a religious service. Our constellations are more informal. Julie's come out for our constellations. We meet at a coffee house, that's Turbo Coffee in Plano. And the constellations are designed to complement these sanctuaries. So at the next constellation, we will talk about morality. We will talk about some of the topics that we covered here. It's a nice way to dive deeper and engage deeper with these ideas. It's also a nice way to kind of socialize and get to know your fellow congregants.
And it's a good community moment to bring other people in.
Yes, exactly. And it's a great way, thank you, Julie, to bring other people. If people aren't available for a Saturday morning, or this may seem a little formal, yes, the constellations are a great, less formal way to introduce people to these ideas and to the ministry. Thank you for that. Luis gave one of our presentations today. He read our sanctuary reflection. Luis has a grand opening tomorrow, an open house for a project he's been working on for as long as I've known him. Luis and his girlfriend. Is that right? Are y'all married? It's your girlfriend?
We're just partners.
Partners, okay. But Luis and Jessica, they're opening their studio. It's called Lobo AR, and that is located in Dallas. I will post it from the ministry account, so anybody that wants to go, it's tomorrow. It's all day tomorrow from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. They're going to have music and food. You can see the space. It's created for content creators. So anyone interested in music or creating video, doing podcasts, it's going to be a space for that. And so we're really excited about seeing it. We love supporting our community members. LuLu, I believe, is going to be doing her first DJ gig. She's going to be one of the people providing music. So you can come out and support LuLu also and support Luis. We're planning on going. We'll be out there, so we're looking forward to it. And as I said, we'll post out the info if you want to join. But follow Ministry of Skepticism so you can stay in touch. If you guys enjoyed this, thank you. Please spread the word. Please come back. There are people out there who are looking for something like this, and they will never discover it unless we let them know about it. There is certainly an appetite for this kind of content, this kind of community. So you are doing people a service when you spread the light and you share this with other people. Let's grow the community. Let's spread the light. Stay curious. Keep asking questions. Keep seeking answers. To lead us in our closing ceremony, Iron and Glass, we're going to call up Alia Brinkman, and we will have our candle bearers. Once again, LuLu, Emmett, and Augustine will come on up. And this will be our closing ceremony. And you can follow along in your reflection books.
Page 14.
Ironing buttons.
We turn our attention once again to the lantern, an encasement of iron and glass that protects the candle burning within. The candle itself is a symbol representing the light of knowledge and reason. The light must be protected. Protect the light. Now take up your lanterns and carry them out into the world. Hold them high and let their radiant light shine against the encroaching darkness of pseudoscience, superstition, and unreason. Science is a candle in the dark. The lantern is a beacon of rationality. Spread the light. Religion is a powerful tool, and we employ it earnestly in the service of our skeptical message. We acknowledge the role that narrative and ritual play in making our teachings more palatable and our lessons more transmissible. Even as our spirits are raised in transcendence, our feet remain grounded in reality. We draw a bright line between the tales that we tell ourselves and the truth. Blow out the candles. The candle carries no meaning outside of our metaphors. The lantern is just iron and glass after all. The only source of meaning, so far as we know, is you and your self-awareness. The most extraordinary creation in all of the cosmos. You are the source of reason. You are the source of knowledge. You are how the universe thinks about itself. Feed your curiosity, sharpen your skeptical tools, spread the message of skepticism and critical thinking. You are the light. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. Please.
Be the light, spread the light, protect the light.
Let it be so.
Amazing. All right, you did it. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. That is it. We are done. Hopefully you can join us at Tom and Tom's. All right. Thank you, live stream. Goodbye, everybody. And thanks to our production crew, Adam, Sean. Thank you, guys. Ty. Pretty good on timing. Not bad.